Hi everyone, my name is Allison Gerber. I'm the editor of the Times Free Press, and I'm here with Leanne Jones, who is a candidate for the Chattanooga City Council District 5. And Ms. Jones, if you wouldn't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, why you're running, what qualifies you to take on this role, and what your highest priority will be if you're elected.
Yeah, sure. Again, Allison, I want to thank you all so very much for this opportunity. I'm excited to sit here and talk with you and just give the constituents of District 5 and the city of Chattanooga an opportunity to get to know me a little better. But as stated, my name is Leanne Jones. I am 30 years of age. I have been a lifelong resident of District 5 and of Chattanooga. What kind of qualifies me to run for city council is I'm a constituent. I have been a lifelong member of this community, and I do wholeheartedly believe when it concerns local politics, it should be the residents and local citizens that are responsible for taking care of local business. I have been a community activist. I've worked in the community through my church. I've done community work, fundraising events, all of these different type of things that can help our community come together and grow. One of the reasons why I decided to run is because we've seen a lot in politics at large, in federal government and local government. We've seen leadership that just has not put the needs of the people at the forefront. And I know some people may say, "Oh, well, every politician says that," and I don't want to hear that. I understand you completely because I'm a constituent just like you. I am not a polished politician. I have never been in politics before, although I am not naive to what politics entails. I do believe that we need someone that understands what everyday people deal with. And that is the reason why I want to run, or why I am running, rather.
Thank you so much. We're going to start out with some questions about the budget. As we approach 1 year since the COVID-19 disease first appeared in Chattanooga, businesses and individuals here have been struggling because of the economic impact. How would you provide aid to businesses and families that have been hit the hardest by the pandemic? Are there programs in place that you would want to keep and other programs that you would want to add?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for that question. I have realized over the past couple of months, I know City Council has gone back and forth over what they should do with certain funds that they receive from the state. I do know that they gave city employees a bonus at towards the end of the year, so that way they could kind of offset some costs or things that they may be struggling, because a lot of employees that work in the offices for the city of Chattanooga are working at home. So that, as well as city workers, they are struggling to take care of the needs that they need to in order to make sure their family is being taken care of. So, but there are some ideas that I have in place in regards to taking care of families and individuals and small businesses. So for one thing we could do is find, I'm sure there are funds somewhere, everywhere, somewhere in the state of Tennessee, even in the city of Chattanooga, that we could use to offset small businesses. Let's partner with some small businesses that are in the food industry. Maybe a stipulation or requirement, rather, would be, in order to qualify for this money, we would suggest that you offer meals at least twice a day to families who have children that are in school. This would help offset your costs, and then as well as taking care of needs in the community, because there are families who really need food as of now, because we've known the Chattanooga food bank is low on supply, low on food, and so that would kind of offset that, kind of kill two birds with one stone, if you will. So that's just one of the ideas that I have in regards to how we can help small businesses and families alike, as they struggle to take care of their families and the needs that they need to meet during this pandemic.
Thank you so much. On to another topic. Paving and transportation consistently ranks at the top of citizens' concerns, according to annual studies by the City of Chattanooga. So what transportation and infrastructure goals would you have if you're elected?
Sure. One of the transportation goals that I have, if I am elected to District 5 seat, is to find more ways to utilize CARTA. I know that there has been conversation around making CARTA free for everyone, which I would wholeheartedly agree with that. But when we understand the basics of economics, some things you just have to pay for. When you look at how CARTA is funded, CARTA is primarily funded through the fees, through the bus fees, bus fares. So let's work together and find a way we can put some people that need work, put them to work. And if they do find a job, a well-paying job, we can that program can supply these individuals with a free pass that would also help transportation, give them a way back to and forth from work, and also including homeless people in that program as well, rehabilitating them back into general society by giving them a pass to use CARTA, but that program would take care of the fee. So it wouldn't put CARTA in a sticky situation, but it would help those that need transportation. Now, when it comes to infrastructure, there are a lot of potholes that need to be fixed in District 5 alone. I have tons of family members that live in this district. My parents live in this district, and my dad is he's a baby boomer, and so every time he may run over a pothole, he just gets kind of frustrated and says, I can't believe it. So if he's doing that, then I can understand everybody's probably doing that. So the first thing I would be willing to do is let's go out, let's walk the streets. We need to see exactly where these potholes are, and we need to tackle them all at once. However, it needs to be done. Let's look at it. Let's, go line to line, see how much it'll cost. Will it create jobs? Will it, if it'll create jobs, let's get those jobs filled and let's get this taken care of.
Thank you for that answer. Um, a recent poll showed that 31% of District 5 residents who were surveyed consider economic development and job growth to be the city's top priority. Do you agree with that assessment? And
Yes,
how would
ma'am,
you,
I do.
how would you address those concerns?
Um, One way I would address those concerns is, for one, District 5 has not seen a lot of economic development over the past 15 years. Um, Ever since I'm 30 years of age, so ever since I was a little girl, the district has kind of looked the same. And so that's not to say anything negative about leadership previous, but it's time for uh, economic growth to be incorporated into this district. A plan my team and I have been working on is seeing is how our district is made up of majority baby boomers. Those are older people. These people are either needing to be taken care of, or they are in the process of taking care of their parents. So one way we could have a solution to that is, let's find a way to bring assisted an assisted living facility to District 5. There's not one in this direct area. And so we want to be able to give our residents here in this district the opportunity to stay in the area that they've lived in for 20, 30, 40 years. So that way they don't have to uproot their life and move away. So if we do that, that would create jobs and that would bring a new look to this district. So that's just one way that I and my team have been working on trying to bring economic growth to this district.
Moving on to a budget issue, city labor unions and many activists support a $15 minimum wage for city employees. Mayor Andy Burke had intended to implement that prior to COVID-19. Do you support this or any other specific pay raise plans for city employees? And if you could explain why or why not.
Yes, I do support this wholeheartedly. This is actually one of my platforms. When we understand what the city of Chattanooga workers are doing to keep our city running day to day, hour by hour, minute by minute, if anything, they deserve the amount of money that they're working for. Um, you have to make sure you're taking care of your employees in order for them to do a good job. And our city workers have done a marvelous job in spite of. So I feel like now is the time for us to really give the city workers what they're needing in order to raise a family, in order to make ends meet, in order to take care of everything that you need to. It's not going to cut it on $10.72 an hour. That's just, it's not going to get it. So because the city of Chattanooga employs them, and because if I were to be elected to the city council, I have a responsibility to fight for the rights of our city workers. So I do agree with that wholeheartedly.
And so following up on that, in 2019, 40% of households in the city of Chattanooga were considered cost burdened, meaning that they pay more than 30% of the household income for housing and therefore may struggle to afford other necessities. So how would you address affordable housing in your district?
Absolutely. Like I stated in response to one of your questions before, in this district, we have not seen a lot of economic growth, and that includes businesses, housing developments, anything that could bring economic growth to this district. And so, one thing about it is we need more affordable housing in this district. And we need something that is affordable to every age group and not just catered to one particular age group. Because when you understand, there are senior citizens that have a fixed income, there are single parents that have a fixed income. So what are we looking to do in order to help these families make ends meet? If they're paying over 30% of their funds to just housing alone, how are they affording clothes? How are they affording food? So we need to really go to the drawing board and see what we can do. Does that mean we need to find a private investor in order to bring housing, or should we be willing to raise taxes on a certain tax bracket in order to afford affordable housing in this district? It's all about going to the drawing board and figuring out what would best benefit this district.
Thank you for your answer. So moving on to public safety, there was a sharp increase in shootings in Chattanooga in 2020. And uh, a similar pattern played out in many cities across the country, sort of attributed to the COVID-19 situation. But how would you work as a council member to lower crime in your district?
One thing that I have learned over my years of working with people and working with families is we have to understand, in order for us to take something away, we have to be willing to put something back. So if we're going to remove the guns from those people that have access to them, what are you then in return putting back into them? We should be investing in more programs that focus on mental health wellness. We should be willing to invest in programs that teach our younger generation the importance of financial literacy, teaching them the importance of being a simple law-abiding citizen. So that is one way that I'm willing to work directly with the constituents of my district in making sure we find a way to lower crime. It's more than just um, increasing or amping up the security of our police officers, although police officers do a wonderful job. But it's all about making sure we understand what our residents and the people are dealing with. If we're not willing to focus on the issues that burden them the most, then we're not going to get anywhere. We're just going to see, we can't fight fire with fire. We have to find another way to put that fire out.
Right. Um, Activists spent this summer here in Chattanooga and across the country protesting police brutality and demanding defunding or divesting of police departments. Would you consider either defunding or divesting from the Chattanooga Police Department? or any other reforms? And if so, what law enforcement reforms would you consider?
Of course. So, um, seeing as how you mentioned the protests that happened this past summer, I was actually a part of some of those protests because a lot of the issues weigh heavy on my heart. You know, we don't like to see um, people that look like us or people in general being done wrong. We understand that there is a right and a wrong way to do things. And sometimes when you go to find something and you seek for something and you see that it's just not working, then we have to go back and take another look at that and say, hey, what can we do to solve this problem? So when it comes to reallocating certain funds that are being given to the police department that is in excess excess rather, then let's find a way to move those funds into programs that would benefit our communities. If the police department has over $200,000 that they just use, you know, randomly and at their discretion, is that something that you can do without? And let's put that back in directly into the community, not into the pockets of those that are in leadership, or not into programs that won't do anything, but we actually need to put this money in programs in our communities directly. And also, there was an amendment that was voted on back on election November 4th that created a police review committee. One thing that I'm committed to do is, if and when I am elected for the District 5 seat, I want to take another look at that amendment, because this amendment does not necessarily give this committee any type of power in regards to reviewing complaints on our police officers. But what it does, it just says, you know, this committee looks at this complaint and then moves on to the next. But what if a police officer has done something extremely wrong? What are you going to do? How are you going to work with the police department to make sure this officer is being held accountable? So I most certainly would be more than willing to relook at that amendment to see about giving this committee just more power in regards to complaints towards our police officers.
So, following up on that, some people have questioned the conduct of activists, citing some incidents of vandalism and disruption to businesses and confrontations. And others have criticized law enforcement for restricting access to public areas, for surveillance of people on private property, and also for the nature of some of the arrests. So, if similar protests or unrest were to occur during your term, how would you weigh restrictions for activists and police presence at such an incident? And what would you have done differently?
Absolutely. So, one thing we have to understand when it comes to community activists, um, their job is not really to appease the public. Community activists are activists because they are bringing awareness to issues that are not in the best interest of everyone. Um, are there some things that I may disagree with? Absolutely. But I understand that as community activists, they have a role and they have a responsibility, and they're not going to let up. However, I do believe that everything should be done decently and in order. And so, if I were elected and during my term, if something of that nature did occur, we would need to have a total sit down and say, hey, what is going on? What happened? Let's go back and look at how, you know, this was handled, how we can prevent this from happening in the future. We have to make clear guidelines from the beginning. If we know that something of this nature is coming up, well, let's learn from the previous mistakes and go ahead and make guidelines and restrictions for the future, because that's the only way that we learn is by what we've experienced in the past. My grandmother used to always tell me, hindsight is 2020. You always see the best when you look back. And so that gives us an idea as to how we can move forward in the future.
Thank you. So, switching to a new topic, Have you received a COVID-19 vaccine? Which I'm assuming since you're 30, you haven't, but um, and if not, will you receive one when it's available for your group?
Right. No, I have not received a COVID-19 vaccine. Um, and do I believe I will? I do. Only if it is necessary, because I won't go as far as saying that I'm immune to the vaccine, but because of my blood type, it it hasn't really, I haven't been able to, what's the word, been infected with the virus. My father had the virus, a best friend of mine had the virus, and two members of my church had the virus. And I've been in close contact with them on several occasions during their infectious period. And so after being tested and tested and tested, and I tested negative, it's like, okay, well, there is a chance that the virus may not affect me completely. But seeing as how I love my parents and I love my church and I love my community, I will do what is necessary to protect and to do what's best for the greater good.
Well, you're fortunate that you did not contract it. That's great.
Absolutely.
So, how do you see the relationship between the mayor and the city council? What should that look like? And will you cultivate a relationship with the new incoming administration, whoever that ends up being?
Right. The mayor and the city council should have a working relationship. That means the mayor, the city council should be in communication every day. If it's only but a check-in, hey, everything going good? Yep, we're good. All right, talk to you tomorrow. A good working relationship, because that builds rapport, and it also helps when, if there's a issue that we may not agree on, we can agree to disagree and still be able to work together. Um, I have always learned that it's easier to work with people that you may not disagree with, but you have a good relationship with, because it's important to get the work done. It's not about, oh, well, I don't like that person, so I'm not going to talk to them. No, it's not about that, because we have one goal and one goal only, and that is to do what's best for the people of the city of Chattanooga. So I do believe that the mayor's office or the mayor and the city council should have a good working relationship. And I do look forward to whomever the new mayor will be. I look forward to working with them personally, because whomever the mayor should be, they should be willing to, or they should have an idea as to what they're wanting to do for this district 5, as well as the city as a whole. So if that meets the needs of my district, then I'm all for it. If it does not, then let's sit down and we need to work out what's going to be best for my district.
So, one last question.
Sure.
There has been some talk in the past about the Chattanooga Lookouts potentially getting a new stadium. If that were to happen, would you support public money for a new baseball stadium for Chattanooga?
I would say yes and no. And I say yes and no because I believe there's so many other things that can be taken care of with public money in the city. But I do understand that there are people that live in our city that love the lookouts. They want to see and they want to increase the economic growth in their area. And doing that by getting a new stadium is one way to do it. So um, I wouldn't want to deter people from wanting to be a part of that process. But I also know that there are much more not well yeah there are a lot of more programs and much more important things that can be done with public funds. So I would say yes and no. It just depends on the amount and all of the logistics, but in a nutshell, it's kind of a 50-50 type situation.